Hi, how are you? Welcome to my kitchen again. Today I have a whole bunch of vegetables for you. And we're going to have a vegetable festival. Fresh ones, fresh ones, fresh ones. When I was a little kid in Seattle, in about 1945 during the Second World War, our local supermarket had a vegetable stand about, maybe 6 feet long. And I remember as a child being fascinated by all these vegetables. It must have been 8 or 10 different ones. In our time, the things you and I can find in our time are just incredible. There's no excuse for eating prepared vegetables. You should eat fresh things and good things. There's a market nearby my home here, my place here in Chicago. It's a joint called Jerry's. Joint. Listen, you wander in there and you'll see what's happened to the American produce market. The changes between now and the Second World War are just incredible. Come with me for a few minutes to Jerry's Produce. I want you to see something that's just beautiful. Have you ever seen so many peppers in your life? Aren't these beautiful? He has yellow ones, red ones, and green ones. You can saute all three of these together at once in a casserole. Lots of garlic, a little olive oil, perhaps a smidgen of oregano. You have a marvelous thing. And please don't buy garlic that's come in a pack, that's been put in a package. Terrible stuff. It loses all of its odor. Buy it in the bulk. It'll keep beautifully this way. Isn't this gorgeous? He has some interesting herbs, too, that we should play with. For instance, here's a calentro or cilantro or Chinese parsley. It's really a lovely thing to play with in salads or even to saute. And some interesting parsley. For instance, here's a parsley that is called Italian over against our curly parsley. The normal curly parsley. Great difference. The flat leaf is very nice. Looks good in the salad. It's very decorative. And it has a much nicer flavor. I think it's milder. Very lovely. Isn't this place beautiful? And the Swiss chard. Look, he has two different colors. Here's a red Swiss chard as well as a white. If you saute the two of these together, you've got something really lovely. Colorful things. That's what we want in the kitchen. Dandelion greens. Good heavens. Next time you go to the market then, try and find something that's unusual in the way of fresh vegetables. I dare you to try baby eggplant. Aren't these gorgeous? Or how about a black radish? That's an interesting thing. No, I haven't eaten one. Or Chinese okra. Yes, I've cooked this. And finally, some Chinese string beans. Beautiful, long rascals. Delicious. I can't stand it any longer. Let's go back to the kitchen and begin cooking, huh? Isn't that place an absolute beauty? I just love it. That many vegetables and fruits in one place just absolutely excite me. I think it's gorgeous. Let me show you some ways of cooking those vegetables that you and I will normally find in the wintertime. Though in our time, I suppose we can find everything. But in the wintertime, generally you have to rely upon lots of good carrots, fresh carrots, a lot of root vegetables. And of course, we have some frozen things we can fall back on if we can't get the fresh ones. But there's a lot of good things we can do, even with the old carrot. Instead of making plain carrots, let's try something different. My frying pan is hot. I want to show you how to make carrots in beer and dill. Got that one? It'll crack your kids up, I promise you. So for carrots and dill, first of all, into our frying pan, we're going to put a tablespoon of butter. Pan is hot first. Remember that story? Please. About 4 carrots, cut into, that's measured carefully enough, cut into shoestring sort of thing, or not shoestring, what do we call it? We call it carrot stick, don't we? All right, we want to cook those for a bit with some dill. And I'm going to put in just a smidgen of dill, about a half teaspoon, I suppose, of dill weed. And you want to cook that with the carrot. We're going to cook the carrots now until they're brown. Just barely brown, you see, with the lid on, shaking them every once in a while until they're finished. Now, got that? Now we'll pretend they're finished. They've browned a little bit. So at the end, that's about 15 minutes. At the end of 15 minutes, we want to add, excuse me, I didn't add the beer yet, did I? That's the part that's fun. You put in the dill and the beer along with the butter. Then you cook it 15 minutes. It's about a cup of beer. And this will cook down. Straight beer right out of the can. Don't worry about it. All right, I'm confusing you already. Carrots, butter, dill in the pan, toss it about, then add the beer, put the lid on, and cook the whole thing for about 15 minutes. At the end of the 15 minutes, then you remove the lid. See, now I've got it straight for you. And you want to put in a pinch of sugar. What is that? Maybe a half a teaspoon. You want this a little bit sweet for the kids and yourself, too. And a tiny bit of salt. And then you cook these for a few more minutes. And let me show you what you wind up with. Because this is not the product at all. That's not it at all. This pan is the one that we want to see. You see, they're almost caramelized. And they're so delicious. The dill and the beer, the maltiness of the beer, and the lovely flavor of the dill combine to make a very unusual vegetable. I just think that it's a very good idea. Let me dish these up for you. And our first dish today, carrots with beer and dill. That should turn on the kids. They always think there's something sinister, don't they, when you're cooking like this, but there's nothing sinister about good food. Can't possibly be. All right, the next one we're going to go on to is green beans with oregano, another very simple one. And in this case, I'm going to use a package of frozen green beans from the wintertime. It's perfectly all right. And this is a quick way to do a dish that, well, will help free you from the same thing you always do with green beans. Into a hot frying pan, we're going to put a bit of olive oil. That was about half a tablespoon. And I'm going to throw in one, if I can find them here, here we go, one package of Italian cut green beans. They're the wider bean, you see, big fat bean. And we'll saute these for a bit. Won't take long. There we go. I obviously had more in there than one package. You were sharp to notice. But that's all right. Okay, we'll get those cooking. The only thing we have to do now is to add a little bit of seasoning, and we want some oregano. Pinch of oregano, almost half a teaspoon, I think. And then we're going to cook these with a bit of garlic to give it that Italian smash, you see. And I'm just going to crush up a clove of garlic. Now they're beginning to simmer. You see, my pan wasn't terribly hot. That's a bad thing to teach you. Be sure your pan's hot first. You remember my saying that over and over again. Okay. Now we're doing it. In the pan I have the olive oil, garlic, dill, and an entire package of green beans cut Italian style. I'll put the lid on this, and we'll let these cook for a bit. Certainly won't take long. And then we'll go on to another dish. The possibilities today are just about endless, thank goodness. You know, in the old days, we used to eat vegetables in terms of seasons. That is to say, you had a certain season in which you saw a vegetable. But in our time, you can pick up just about everything you want all year around. It's really quite amazing when you come to think about it. Very amazing indeed. Now, the last thing we're going to do to that dish is to add a bit of lemon juice just before we serve it, rather than a lot of salt. You see what I'm doing? Garlic and salt and a little bit of a tiny bit of oil, lemon juice. All of these things will help you get rid of your taste for salt. Use garlic, lemon juice, and herbs instead. Cut out the salt, and it's better for your system that way. Besides, you'll then learn that restaurants, for instance, use much too much salt in their cooking. You don't need it. Okay, they're looking good. Now, on to the next one. This is a very strange dish, but I have in here, in this great kettle, let me get a frying pan going. I need a big one. We don't have a big one. There we go. Put a frying pan on. In this kettle, I have prepared 3 different vegetables. I'm going to do an Italian sauté for you. You'll notice zucchini, the little green ones, aren't you clever, and the cauliflower and the carrots. Now, why are they sitting here in water? Because I've blanched them or pre-cooked them barely, one by one. I cooked the carrots first, took them out of the water, threw them into cold water. Then I put in the cauliflower, took them out of the kettle and put them into cold water. And then I did the zucchini. So each vegetable is cooked to just its own point of fulfillment. You can't make this into a stew. And then you drain everything. This is the old Italian trick. And it's very common in Italian restaurants. I see a lot of this in San Francisco. You drain this. After you see, let them sit in the water and stay cool and nice. When dinner time comes, everything's ready, and at the last minute, all you have to do is to drain your vegetables, which have been pre-cooked, so to speak, but they're not quite done. You don't want them to be all dry. And then into your frying pan, which is awfully hot here, you put a bit of oil and some garlic. Where's my garlic bowl? Here we are. This time I'm going to cut the garlic up. I don't want to have it crushed. There we go. We're just going to use the same old pan again. There's no reason to keep washing your pans out unless you're using weird flavors that you don't want to mix. And I'm not. A bit of olive oil into the garlic. Toast the garlic first while your vegetables drain. And then now, depending on how many people you have for dinner, because I don't know how much of this you would have made, but we're going to make a serving for about 3 or 4 people. And we'll simply put in a handful of vegetables now out of our draining pot and saute them in the garlic oil And that's all there is to it. Very Italian. There's a place called the Columbus Cafe in San Francisco on the corner of Broadway and Grant. I'm sure I'm right. The Columbus Cafe. She makes the best calamari you could possibly imagine. Interesting woman. She makes sweet bread. And she always serves the same vegetable dish, and this is it. Now we're going to cook this for a bit. Don't let the flaming oil bother you. That happens on a gas stove when you have things good and hot. Cook this for a bit. Now we're going to add a little bit of beef stock. About 1/4 cup to our pan. And then we're going to add some grated Parmesan cheese just before we serve it. But I need to put a lid on this for a minute and get it good and hot. That'll take just a second. Lay down flat there, you rascal. There we go. That'll take a minute. Let's see how our beans are doing now. I think they're about done. Italian green beans with oregano. That was hardly complex. Now we need to put a bit of lemon juice in these. And just a tad. You won't need much. There we go. And the dish is complete. Did you get the recipe on that one? It's very simple. Green beans, olive oil, garlic, and it's the oregano that does it. You see? Then at the last, we simmer that for a bit, and then at the last minute we add a shot of lemon juice to brighten the flavor, to sharpen it up. So we'll put these down in a buffet for you. Boy, I don't know if I'm going to have room. Listen, gorgeous eggplant. Isn't that a gorgeous color? Eggplants are lovely things. Let's just move him over here. Okay. You can also, to your sautéed vegetables, add onion if you like. That's awfully good. Onion would be a great addition. See how they're doing, huh? That one's hot. They're looking fine. Just takes a minute, you see. Did you get that recipe? Blanch the vegetables ahead of time, with the exception of the onion. If you can throw onion in, throw that in at the last minute. As a matter of fact, you can just pan fry those and not worry about them. You don't want them to be blanched. You'll lose their flavor. We have blanched or pre-cooked very quickly and then dipped into cold water the 3 vegetables: carrots, zucchini, and of course this gorgeous cauliflower. And it's ready now for a bit of cheese. We pan fried those for a bit in olive oil and garlic. And then we put in a little bit of beef stock, put the lid on, and let the whole works heat up. Hot now, and it's ready for dinner. So we'll put on a little cheese, toss it a bit. Let's not toss it too far, Jeffrey. Please.